Hello everybody, welcome along. Hopefully enough notice to join in today. I did read the comments about just coming straight on here. So if you are in the live chat, do hit the thumbs up button and get involved. We'll go through today's football stories and then we'll do a little bit of a chit chat, whatever you want to talk about at the end. A few new things, a few things moving on. We'll try and go a couple of different angles today so we get a little few things different to debate. First of all, Newcastle takeover, depending on where you read, some people say it's happened and they're just waiting to announce it. Some people say it will happen very, very soon. Been rumbling along for a fair while. Apparently the Premier League are now just sitting back and going to allow Mike Ashley or the new owners to announce this, and Forbes, the financial analyst people in the Middle East, say it's already been done. So we are expecting the Saudi Public Investment Fund to be part of the Premier League and part of English football. There's contention about their human rights and things of that nature. I'm not going to pretend after reading one article about it that I'm an expert. I'm sure there are people in the chat that know more about it than I do. The Saudis have targeted a few different sports. Golf they've done, boxing, they had a big boxing match over there, and WWE, which obviously draws lots and lots of fans as well. Looks like it's going through for Newcastle. Let me know what you think in the comments, just on the general direction of travel for Newcastle, on Premier League owners as a whole. Only seems we have Burnley and Norwich now not owned by super rich people. And if you do have an opinion on fit and proper and human rights and things of that nature, do put it in. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert. Get your comments in on that. A new story today comes from Damien Collins, who's a former MP, and Charlie Methven, who anybody who's watched Sunderland Till I Die will know who he is. They have come together to make proposals to stop what they claim would be 10 teams in the EFL going into administration, particularly around the June the 30th date with contract expiries. They've written a 6-point proposal and want to form a Football Finance Alliance Association. I don't know what the A stands for, but FFA. So their 6-point proposal says that they would form this organisation, the FFA, which would be backed by the government. So that would be the government essentially bailing football clubs out. Funds would be provided for short-term expenditure, so not for transfers. In exchange, this organisation would then take an independent shareholding in the club. So they would then, the more they were bailed out, the more the club would then be owned by this organisation. Independent would go onto boards of clubs as well. So they would then have a kind of presence on clubs' boards to stop them making bad decisions. They would have access to financial records and would act like an administrator, presumably before an actual administrator would have to come in. The shareholding then, once bailouts have been done, could then be bought back by a supporters trust or a local authority in by way of repaying the government. And the FFA would control the EFL's financial regulations. So yes, it's an idea, isn't it? This would be a very powerful looking entity. Presumably anything with links with government as well would be rather interested in muddying the waters there. Can't see it happening myself. I don't know whether we need another body involved. We always talked about these negotiations and the PFA and the Premier League and the EFL and the FA and the doctors and the players, and there's already enough kind of red tape as we go. And the other issue is, should government really be getting involved? I'm sure you could just pass on 4 or 5 transactions that would say clubs are incredibly reckless and shouldn't be being bailed out by the government, but hey, the virus makes that maybe a slightly little different kettle of fish, doesn't it? And what about 10 clubs at risk? We've had all sorts of different numbers, but will the administrations happen? We're going to get the results of the votes. We're going to get, the conclusions and some playoffs at least. Will we see clubs then straight into administration at the earliest opportunity when they know what's happening and contracts do start to expire and we know really what the liabilities are, and then going forward into next season? So I agree that it's a tricky situation. I'm not sure that another body coming in and muddying the waters, even if they want to help, sorts it out. And I'm not sure football clubs should be taking government money, especially not this time. But there you go, get your thoughts in the comments on that. Someone who's been very clear in their thoughts today is Leeds CEO Angus Kinnear, talking to the Yorkshire Evening Post, has been very outspoken. He says, and I quote, "England had some of the finest sports scientists and football administrators in the game, and the time has come for us as a sport to stop repeatedly framing the challenges and start delivering on the solutions." So Kinnear wants less talking and more doing. I think in an ideal world, we'd all like less talking and more doing, but the world is far from ideal at the moment. He says it would be a national embarrassment, goodness me, if the Bundesliga, La Liga or Serie A were to be able to complete safely, and the first and fifth biggest leagues in the world, he's called in a championship the fifth biggest league in the world. I'm sure from a financial point of view he's probably right. The first and fifth biggest leagues in the world were not able to follow suit if the context remained comparable. Are we going to get more people speaking out in this way, in terms of, look, let's stop talking and get on with it, let's either cancel or play? What did he say that interested me? Repeatedly framing the challenges. That has happened. I do agree with Angus Kinnear on that. We're just getting a different voice, and we're going to hear from Joey Barton and Gareth Ainsworth in a minute, just repeating what the challenges are. And what did the EFL say? They wanted a can-do attitude from people. So although I'm sure, basically because it's Leeds, it'll get criticised, won't it? And they seem to evoke emotion out of their own fans and other football fans particularly. But some truth to what Kinnear has said. Is it helpful to say it in quite such an outspoken way? I don't know. You let me know in the comments. I have this morning sat on my sofa and watched Joey Barton speaking on the Sky TV show with Neville and Carragher. A few interesting tidbits from Barton. He's always, he's always box office, isn't he? He did say, I don't know, I've not heard this said anywhere else, so let me know if you have heard it, 5 days to vote for the EFL. I haven't heard a timescale on it. The EFL statement didn't give a timescale, but he said 5 days to vote. He did say then later in the conversation that will be done in 2 or 3 days, so maybe it's, where would that take us to? So it came out yesterday, didn't it? Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, so that would be a solution by Monday. So I'm sure Joey's in the know on that. He reinforced about Fleetwood wanting to play on and said, given the form and the fixtures, that they could have got automatic promotion. So we're getting this a lot from teams up the top now, this position of A, sporting integrity, we want to play on, and B, look at the fixtures, we're actually being hard done to by cancelling because we thought we could finish higher. I always say that a lot of us laymen can't actually relate to these massively hyper competitive people. There's a reason Joey Barton's played in the Premier League for 10 years and is a football manager, and I'm sat here on my sofa. Maybe I don't have those intangibles that these crazy competitive sportsmen have. So I can get that. Great quote as well. Rotherham have won the lottery by getting second. They had 6 of the top 10 to play. So interesting little grenade thrown in Rotherham's direction. On players not playing, again he said something funny about Troy Deeney. It would depend if he was being prompted to not play. And he said the Potsos wouldn't want him to play because why would they? They can avoid relegation if they don't. So he admitted to self-interest. I think everyone's got over the whole self-interest thing now. Every single club has it and is doing the best for themselves. So we can probably park self-interest now as a debate, because I don't think it's helpful anymore. An interesting angle on the players, like Troy Deeney or Kante taking training off. By the way, with Kante's not refused to play. He's just not training in this sector. It's not to say that he won't come back, whereas Deeney's been much more outspoken and said that he didn't want to play. He said, that's fine, and he didn't want to get involved in whether they should be paid or not, but said that should then create an opening in the same way an injury does for a younger player. So interesting angle as per usual. Gary Neville went back and forth with him. Neville seemed to be a little bit confused about there being 3 options. The option to curtail without playoffs. Where we are now, that's not the case. There's 2 options for the EFL to vote for. They can either curtail, and that'll be with playoffs, or they can play on. And look, there's going to be a lot of guessing games as to what's in people's best interest, i.e., if you are in a promotion place, well, why would you want to play on and risk that? Vote to stop and you're promoted. You're essentially voting to get yourself promoted. So that would work. Even if you're in a playoff place, there's still an argument to say, if we curtail, we're 3 games from potential promotion. If we play on, we're 9 games from potentially automatic promotion, but 9 games is more than 3 games, isn't it? Surely it's more difficult to do over 9 games, but and then the relegation people now obviously you'd think if you're below the line you'd want to play on, and if you're just above it you wouldn't. So a lot of guessing games as to how people are going to vote. We then did hear Gareth Ainsworth. He came on as the Wycombe boss, and we're getting this line now from people. He said exactly the same things as Barton. He said, we want to play on because we think we can get automatic, and similar thing, look at our fixtures. It just shows the competitive nature of these people. If you're that mindset to be a football manager and to get that far, you will always see the glass being half full and, no, those fixtures are good for us, we can win them and get automatic promotion. So Ainsworth, very similar, and both of them avoided certain questions by saying, that's a job for the owner and not for me. So interesting to hear from both of them, and of course, as it stands, it would be Fleetwood versus Wycombe in a League One playoff. If we do get the curtailment, which is quite likely, I think, when you consider the size of a lot of League One clubs will want to just get this done, then we could have a situation where it is going to be Fleetwood, Wycombe, and forgive me, Oxford and Sunderland, is it? I'm trying to think who's actually up in the top there. I hope I haven't got that wrong. I'm sure someone will correct me in the chat if I have. A couple of sort of humorous ones before we do any questions that come in the chat. Stam was named as the FC Cincinnati manager yesterday, and the club Pompey. Thank you, Jonathan. Sorry if it's not something. Sorry, I knew I was getting that wrong as I said it. It's like when you lock yourself out, that you know as you're closing the door that you're making a mistake, but you don't stop yourself doing it. Stam got announced, and Cincinnati tweeted, welcome Yap, with a picture of, not Stam, it was Tinus van Tenenbroek, an Ajax youth coach with a similar shaven-headed look. My God. I don't want to go down the race angle, but I saw a lot of comments saying it's a good thing that was a bald white bloke, because you'd had all sorts of outrage if it wasn't. Again, I don't want to open that can of worms. I don't think there's a racial skin pigmentation angle here. I think it's a innocent case of mistaken identity and maybe club admin getting fired possibly the next day, or a severe reprimand there. Let me know any cases of mistaken identity that you can remember. And what about Yap Stam? Did so well with Reading on the back end of their parachute payments there. Penalty shootout, could have taken them up. Very early adopter of split centre halves in the Championship. One of the first we saw. I thought we'd have him around for longer, and could we have him back in the Championship? Another amusing angle was Robbie Savage trending on Twitter during the number 10 briefing yesterday. The ex-Premier League star turned pundit appeared during the number 10 press briefing, asking a question about people going out and playing tennis and cricket or golf or something like that, and not football. So can we think of a more odd football personality turning up in the political arena? I think, wasn't George Weah not a president or something in Liberia, or certainly something very high up? So there is a precedent for this. It says we've got a nice number of people in the chat watching live, so if you've got any questions or any topics you want us to cover, I have now shifted over to that side and I'll try and cover them. I'm told that if you hit like during the video, that's better for my algorithms and more people seeing the video. So do hit like if you are watching in the chat. Do leave a comment if you are watching on delay. I'll wait a few seconds longer and see if there's any questions come up in the chat. Jeff says he's the president of Liberia. There we go. George says, will the salary cap affect contracted players or new contract? You'd think that would be... it's difficult however they're going to implement it. I would think it would say something like, you got lucky if you're on a current contract, and that contract should be honoured. But you would think it would be contract signed going forward if a salary cap is introduced. Nick says, any thoughts on the FA Cup being finished? Jamie Carragher came up with his World Cup ending of the FA Cup. On paper it makes sense, doesn't it? I guess on Friday at 5 you play quarter-final number 1, followed by quarter-final number 2 at 8 p.m, and then you do another load during the weekend, like a World Cup. Stick them all on TV, get everybody watching, bring some ad revenue in, keep everybody safe. I guess that would be done after the Premier League season was finished. I'm sure you'll get then a load of people cry foul. Oh, the FA Cup was easier to win because you weren't doing it in between league fixtures. But hey, as I've said a few times now, the it's not fair argument isn't holding any water with me anymore, because nothing's fair, is it, at the moment? And so yeah, I'd endorse the FA Cup doing that. I suspect once we get a Premier League solution, remember you're going to want the Champions League jumping on a similar thing. Can they fly all the, and this will be 2 weeks after all of this was done. They're going to want this happening, a 2-week quarantine to be lifted and then going over somewhere. Jeff asked, players' future wages dropping like a stone. I think that said, yeah, they're gonna drop, aren't they? Particularly in League Two. I think we'll get League Two and National League players in clubs where there's not money. Footballers' wage will come closer than quite a normal wage. But I guess the argument is that in all industries, wages will likely drop. I'm sure, apart from Mr. Amazon and Mr. Tesco and whoever's making the tests, not many people are going to be thriving from this current situation. John says, from a Birmingham point of view, hopeful that Hogan's wage demands will be lower. I'm sure he'll be clinging to that contract. Tom, I think, asked about Paul Lambert with Ipswich. A lot of weird rumours about Paul Lambert's contract and clauses pertaining to playoff finishes or non-playoff finishes. I suspect that you'll see Paul Lambert at Ipswich at least into the autumn, but I would suspect that if he's any distance from the playoffs going into November, December, this was the feeling in the Blue Monday WhatsApp podcast group, that you might see a fair amount of pressure, and it's not beyond Mr. Lambert to walk away from a job. Is it? John says, where do you think Bruce will end up as new owners at Newcastle want Pochettino? Bruce will end up in the Championship, won't he? I think Mike Ashley was his only route to the Premier League. So, and Steve Bruce is a good Championship level manager. He's got a few promotions. I think people thought he was, petering off, but really good job at Sheffield Wednesday, wasn't it? Ronaldo Carbone. Newcastle is registered as one of the 25 companies invested in so far by the Saudi fund, according to their website. There we go. John says, Bruce back to Blues. Wouldn't mind that. Well, yeah, we'll see how Pep Clotet does. But big success for Steve Bruce at Blues. And remember as well, my old mate Mick from Ipswich will have possibly McCarthy and Bruce in the running, in the background for jobs when things start. And they still seem to manage to get the jobs done, don't they? Jeff says, how many clubs do you think we will lose when this is over? Well, hopefully none, but that might be me being fanciful. Hopefully we don't lose any in respect to, this Bury situation. We didn't lose Bury. They can come back. It's them getting wound up and liquidated that's the big issue. So, hopefully not too many, but it'll happen. Russ says, what do I think will happen in the Championship? The vote will be interesting, won't it? If all the people that are talking about sporting integrity are actually for sporting integrity, then they'll want to play on. I suspect they'll play on, won't they? John says Pep will be gone in the summer. Yeah, maybe clean out at Birmingham. We will see. I'm sure the Jude Bellingham money will entice any manager in there at Birmingham. Going back to the Championship and Russ's question though, you could see what do we need? 13 teams to vote against it stopping, and we just get playoffs. I think the thing with the Championship is who would be really, really hard done to. You'd argue Charlton, maybe those relegation teams. I don't know. I really, really don't know. Nick says, do you think League 1 and 2 may become North and South? Yeah, that's a possibility. You could get a mass restructuring, couldn't you? You could even get Premier League 1, Premier League 2 and trying to ring fence that money and get it down to a few more teams. And then, you could get EFL 1 and then EFL North and EFL South. And that would be, 1, 2, 3 national divisions and then 2, the bottom one. We will see what happens there. But definitely they're looking like the intention. You even see the Scottish clubs talking already about, middle of July, fixtures announced for the next season and whatnot. So, I think they want to continue as per normal. We just might get a little bit of a later start this season. And we might get what some people said and leading into this World Cup and all of those things in 2022. But hey, I think at the moment, get the current season sorted, get all those decisions made. George says, Ben, National League can cope with a national division, why can't the EFL? I suppose the answer to that would be if the money really, really did fall out of it and they needed to really restructure finances and people couldn't cope with the travel. Although we did see some arguments that the travel costs weren't actually that massive. So we'll see. We will see. But that's a fair question from George. There. Not sure we're going to get anything big decided now going ahead through the weekend. If Joey Barton's comments are correct, we might get some decisions on Monday. So I'll possibly turn my attention to the Bundesliga and have a look at that over the weekend. Let me know if you've got any ideas for any content as we go forward. Happy to come on and do these live streams. And yes, the people that complained that. Glenn says, I bet there is money changing hands behind the scene for the vote. That's Glenn's views, not mine. But regardless of any money, I'm sure there'll be plenty of conversations. Let's just say, and we do get turkeys voting for Christmas, don't we? What sense would West Brom? Why would they want to play on? Very, very strange. But other than sporting integrity, we'll see how it pans out. But in terms of stuff happening, I don't think we're going to get much big news. We might get some leaked votes and some indicative votes. So we'll see what happens. But as I was saying, I'll try and announce the live streams with a little bit of notice because we got some great viewership on the one yesterday. Muchly appreciate anybody tuning in here. Again, if you have tuned in, then do hit the like button. Apparently that's good for me. John says, other than Fulham, why would any of the top six want to play on? Who's fourth place? Forest or Brentford? I can't remember, but they're 10 points off, aren't they? Points per game for Leeds and West Brom. They'd only need a win or two and a couple of draws, and it would make it really, really hard for any team. And I do think, I've said it a couple of times, we're going to get some crazed switches in forms, and we're going to get someone comes back. Maybe in the Premier League, they'll lose all of their games. It will happen. They won't be able to cope with the chaos. They won't be able to cope with the behind closed doors. And, they'll lose all their games. They'll get relegated and they'll cry foul forever about going down. So, mark my words, I can see that happening. Right, I'll bid you all farewell. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, everybody, for hitting like. As I've requested that, the number's gone up each time. That's brilliant. Thank you for your support and your cooperation on that. Thank you for the comments, driving the narrative. And as always, thank you for the information. I'm hopefully able to absorb and disseminate some of it, as they would say in education. But it's not my knowledge, it's you guys' knowledge. And that is absolutely vital. A few more thumbs up. Brilliant. Really do appreciate that. Get involved in the comments if you are watching on delay, and any ideas for any content over the weekend would be great. I'm sure something will pop up. I raced upstairs from the washing up when the latest EFL statement came out yesterday, so I'm sure it will happen. And just a pre-warning, I am likely to go back to work on June the 1st, hopefully safely. So maybe we'll keep this format going while I can't get to matches. Thank you for everyone for being okay with expanding out the content and talking a bit about the Premier League. I hope you understand that my lifeblood was going to games and building up the subscriber base based on that. So I hope you understand the slight little pivot in content, just doing what I can, like everybody at the moment, to keep going. So I'll say a big thank you again. Hit like, subscribe, ring the bell, Twitter @Benjamin Bloom, Patreon as well, although before you part with any of your cash, maybe let's wait until we know what's happening in a couple of months, but I'll plug it anyhow. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all very soon. Over and out.